like in the 30s, you get a better perspective of what life is really about and how to be responsible, accept bills and pay taxes. And then you have all this confusion in your 20s of where my life's going. What am I going to be? Do I do this?
Behind the glittering lights and chart-topping hits, the music industry hides a shadowy underworld, one ruled not just by talent, but by power, control, and secrets some would kill to protect. Vanilla Ice wasn't just a fleeting pop sensation. He stumbled into a dark game where moguls like Diddy and Jay-Z pulled the strings. When he dared to expose the hidden rules and unmask the industry's brutal tactics, everything changed. Success turned into a nightmare, and the price he paid was far more than fame could ever be worth. This is the untold story of betrayal, survival, and the chilling cost of speaking truth to power in the ruthless world behind the music. The illusion of success, chasing the dream. At first glance, it looked like everything a young artist could ever dream of. An impossible overnight rise to superstardom that seemed to come from nowhere. When Ice Ice Baby exploded onto the scene, it wasn't just a song, it was a cultural earthquake that shook the music world to its core. Suddenly, I was no longer the kid rapping in dingy underground clubs or battling MCs at small venues that barely fit 50 people. I was filling stadiums, my face plastered on magazine covers, invited to parties with Hollywood elites. The energy was electric, intoxicating. The fame was dazzling, blinding even. Everyone wanted a piece of this new sensation. Overnight, I was everywhere. But beneath that shimmering veneer of success lay a darkness that no one warned me about. A shadow world where power and control lurked. And nothing was as simple as it seemed. Success wasn't just about fans cheering and record sales soaring. It was about entering an invisible battlefield dominated by ruthless gatekeepers, people who didn't just sign you, they owned you. These were not names you heard in the tabloids or saw in the headlines. These were the puppeteers behind the curtain, figures like Clive Davis, Diddy, Jay-Z, and others cloaked in mystery and influence. At first, their attention felt like an honor, invitations to private meetings, promises of mentorship, whispers of making me an icon. It all sounded like the dream. But behind those polished smiles were strings, and they were tightening fast. The dark initiation, hazing in the music industry. You might think hazing belongs to college fraternities or secret societies, but the music industry has its own twisted initiation rituals. These weren't about talent or artistry, they were about control, loyalty, and submission. The hazing was psychological, spiritual, and sometimes even physical. It was designed to break you down, to strip away your identity, and to rebuild you in their image. This was no fraternity prank or harmless rite of passage. This was a brutal test of obedience where the price of failure was exile, or worse. They didn't just want me to play by their rules. They wanted me to surrender my soul, my creativity, my public image, my very morals. All were collateral damage in their game. Offers came wrapped in velvet but concealed steel, secret handshakes, unspoken contracts with strings so binding they felt like chains. And what did the game demand? Absolute loyalty. No questions asked, no hesitation. And if you refused, you became the enemy, not just to one powerful figure, but to an entire machine built to control, manipulate, and silence dissent. The stakes were survival itself. Standing at the crossroads, the choice that changed everything. I remember the moment like it was yesterday, etched in my memory with painful clarity. There I was, standing at a crossroads. One path led higher into the industry's gilded halls, with fame and fortune shimmering just out of reach. But the price was terrifying. Sell a piece of myself, compromise my soul, and become another puppet on their stage. The other path was darker, uncertain, and lonely. Walk away and risk losing everything I'd fought so hard to build. Most people would have taken the deal without a second thought. Fame is a powerful drug, and the money, the lifestyle, it dazzles even the strongest. But something inside me whispered that this wasn't what success was supposed to feel like. The pressure was intense, offers came fast, and the world was moving too quickly for me to process. But I couldn't ignore the shadows behind the glitter, the secret rituals, the mental manipulation, the dark spiritual bargains that went beyond anything I had imagined. It wasn't just about business deals or contracts. This was a hidden system inside the music industry, a system most artists never dare speak of aloud. Agreeing to it was like signing up for a club you could never leave. The higher you climbed, the more you had to sacrifice. Your art, your image, your integrity, your soul. The cost of defiance, the industry's war on vanilla ice. When I said no, when I refused to be another pawn, the world I knew turned upside down. The machine that once courted me became my greatest enemy. But they didn't come at me with lawsuits or overt threats. No, it was much more insidious. Whisper campaigns started, rumors that I wasn't real hip-hop, that I was a pop puppet cashing in on a culture I didn't respect. Those whispers weren't random. They were strategically planted by the very insiders who had promised to make me a legend. Doors slammed shut overnight. Promoters stopped calling. Collaborations evaporated like mist. Radio stations that once spun Ice Ice Baby on repeat ignored my new tracks completely. It wasn't just about ending my career, it was about erasing me, sending a brutal message to every artist watching. This is what happens when you don't play ball. But I wasn't just fighting for fame. I was fighting for my identity, my freedom, maybe even my life. An unexpected ally, Tupac's friendship and support. In the midst of the storm, I found an unexpected light. Tupac Shakur. Yeah, that Tupac. The man who would become a global icon and a voice for a generation. Before the world knew him as a legend, before the music industry tried to silence him, he and I crossed paths and instantly connected. Tupac saw something in me that others missed. The hunger, the authenticity, the grind. He didn't judge me by headlines or industry gossip. Instead, he saw my struggle, my fight to hold on to who I was amid the madness. He gave me private encouragement and public support at a time when it wasn't popular, or even safe, to do so. Our friendship made me a bigger target for the power players who were already furious with me. Tupac was a force they couldn't control, and by backing me, he became their enemy too. But with that friendship came strength. Knowing Tupac had my back gave me the courage to keep standing, to keep fighting. The violent warning, the stabbing that changed everything. The stakes became deadly real one night, suddenly, brutally, and without warning. What started as another evening in the spotlight turned into a nightmare I barely escaped. I was ambushed, attacked in a way so violent it shook me to my core. 5 times I was stabbed, each blow stealing my strength, my breath, my very life. Blood poured out of me like a river, the pain blinding, the darkness creeping closer with every passing second. I lost nearly half my blood before help arrived. The paramedics who found me said later that if I'd gotten to the hospital just a few minutes later, I wouldn't have made it. The doctors told me the same. My survival was a miracle, a razor-thin margin between life and death. Officially, the police ruled it as random violence, a mugging gone wrong, or a street fight that escalated too far. But I knew better. The timing was too precise, the circumstances too suspicious. This wasn't random. It was a message. a warning sent directly to me. It came right after I refused the industry's secret handshake, right after Tupac had publicly backed me and raised my profile as someone who wasn't going to be controlled. This attack wasn't just a brutal physical assault, it was a threat to my very existence, a sinister reminder that the game I was trying to play wasn't just dangerous, it was lethal. The hotel confrontation, hanging over a balcony by my ankles. But the violence didn't stop there. Rumors swirled about what happened next. A terrifying confrontation in a Beverly Hills hotel suite that felt like a scene straight out of a thriller. Sung Knight Surge didn't come alone. He arrived with a crew, 6 men deep, guns clearly visible, eyes cold and unyielding. They came for blood, for control, for something far more than money. I had bodyguards, but they were outnumbered, caught in a corner between force and intimidation. Stories say I was hung over a balcony by my ankles, dangling like prey caught in a trap. The truth is more complicated, but the threat was no less real. The message was crystal clear. They wanted 25% of my royalties. No lawyers, no negotiations, just submission. This wasn't about business deals or contracts. It was about power, about sending a signal to me and anyone watching that no matter how big you get, no matter how much success you claim, you don't run the show. They do. The entire ordeal was a brutal lesson in what happens when you challenge the system. A system that doesn't tolerate dissent, that uses fear and violence to keep control. It was a stark reminder that in this world, money isn't the ultimate weapon. It's intimidation and dominance. Survival and reinvention. Walking away from the machine. After that terrifying night, I handed over the money. It was a price I paid reluctantly, an investment in my survival rather than a concession. But I never gave them what they really wanted: my loyalty, my soul, my submission. That moment was a turning point. I realized I couldn't win playing by their rules. The higher I climbed, the more they demanded. The game was rigged from the start, and the cost of playing was more than I was willing to pay. So, I did the unthinkable. I walked away, not just from the fame, the money, or the blinding spotlight, but from the entire toxic machine that had almost destroyed me. While the industry tried to blacklist me, closing doors and erasing my name from the charts, I quietly pivoted. I poured my energy into real estate, flipping houses, building wealth away from the cameras and the noise. It was a world where I could control the rules, where success didn't come with a price tag on my soul. Some of those power players, like Sung Knight Surge, ended up where they belonged, locked behind bars, facing decades for crimes that caught up with them. Meanwhile, I found freedom on my own terms. I rebuilt my life, brick by brick, far from the predators lurking in the shadows of the music business. The final twist: what might have been, and what was saved. Looking back now, I can't help but wonder, what if I had said yes? What if I had taken the deal, played the game the way they wanted? Maybe I'd be sitting where some of those fallen legends once sat, powerful, rich, famous beyond belief. But at what cost? The industry doesn't just make stars, it devours them, one by one, stripping them of their humanity, their identity, their freedom. I've seen too many great talents swallowed whole by that machine, lost in the illusion of success. My story isn't just about surviving fame or dodging violence. It's about surviving a system so dark and so deeply entrenched that most people don't even know it exists. The rabbit hole goes far deeper than anyone wants to admit. And once you see what's behind the curtain, there's no going back. I didn't just survive the music industry. I beat it. And today, I live a life reclaimed, a life that belongs to me, because I refused to sell my soul.